this is Shabbos, and this is Daf Gimel. We were discussing in Daf Beis that Rabbi Yossi was saying that if a person does a half and a half, so whether or not that's going to be considered a full chatas, whether he's going to be liable for chatas or not, and the Gemara is going to bring some contradictions, and then it's going to try to explain him, and then it's going to reduce his opinion, and then eventually it's going to come out to an opinion of what exactly he's saying. Second half of the daf, we're going to be talking about transferring an object through a karmelis, whether the karmelis breaks up the Rishusim of Rishayach and Risharabim. A karmelis is basically an in-between situation. Rishayach is obviously a person's private domain. Risharabim is where many people travel. 600,000 people, let's say, definitely a busy intersection, a busy thoroughfare. Karmelis is more like a rural area. It's public space, but it's rural area. Let's go into Rabbi Yossi. Let's see what we talked about Rabbi Yossi. So, Kevon Jahait Siyab said as soon as the person takes out the second half measure, so what did Rabbi Yossi say? Rabbi Yossi said that if a person takes out a half of a fig, it goes into the public domain. Then he takes another half of fig. As long as he's walking within Dal Amis of the first one, so that's considered putting it down. Walking is considered putting it down. That's what we learned before. So as soon as he takes it out, as if he places it there, a putter, and accordingly he should be a putter because it's not within 4 amis of the other one. According to basically, he says only if you walk by within 4 amis of the first one does the 2 acts, the half first and the second half second combine. But when you have half taken out, put Dalet Amis, and then the second one is taken not near the Dalet Amis, just taken out. So that one, according to Beis, would not be liable. We see that just taking it out is liable itself because now you went from Rishus to Rishus. So Tiftar Shahaiso Nasna B'Soich Arba Amos. So interpret that the first measure was placed within 4 amis of the threshold. In other words, he took the first one, put it within first 4 amis of the house, and then he went ahead and took the second one out, and the second he left the house, now he's liable because he is obviously within the 4 amis. But that makes no sense because that is not what the Bryce was talking about, and the Gemara is going to bring some contradictions in this Bryce. First of all, logically, it's not what the Bryce is talking about. Why would the Bryce talk about bringing with anything within 4 amis? He should just say, Rabbi Yossi says that if you bring it within 4 amis, then it's going to be liable. In other words, but it's only liable when you bring it within 4 amis. Rabbi Yossi must be talking about a case where it's within 4 amis of the Rishayach. But the Bryce did not say that. The Bryce said it could have been anywhere. It could have been put at 50 feet from the house, and then you went somewhere else, and it was not within 4 amis. Definitely, the Bryce that we were talking about Rabbi Yossi before, it makes it seem like there's definitely a possibility where you would not be within 4 amis. There's a way to do it where you divert, but this one is not saying, because this one is saying he plays within 4 amis of the household, so it's impossible to leave the household without being 4 amis from that first half of a fig. So now the Gemara is going to bring some contradictions. So Kedahai, so we look like this brisa, the Tani, but they told the brisa the imlav potter. But if not, right? If it's not, if you did not bring the second measure from within the first, he's potter. So how's it possible potter? If he put it within 4 amis of the house, the second leaves the house, he's chayiv. Give me a scenario where he's potter. The Bryce said there's a scenario where he's potter, like we just talked about. But the problem is there is no scenario where he's potter because he put it within 4 amis of the house and he walks out of the house. He's automatically in 4 amis. He's going to be chayiv. Give me a scenario where he's potter. So it's not. So that can't be that he put it within 4 amis of the house. So I'm a Rava Bere Rav Hapi. It's interesting. This Rava is the same exact Rava as the one that's in Talmud Bavli, but this seems like a Rava that's the son of Rav Hapi. What's interesting about Rav Hapi is Rav Hapi brings to mind Rav Papa. But these are, whether that's the same people, Tzarachim. So Rava, the son of Rav Papi's son, said, Tiftar Shahaya Pesach Racha Chamesh Amis. Interpret this that where it was within, it was basically the threshold had a width of 5 amis. And he took one and put it on one side, and the other one on the other side. So then, so it emerges that you do not take on the first one within 4 amis, the second one. So there's 5 amis. He moved it all the way to the other 5 amis. And this one, the way to divert and make sure that you're not going to be chayiv is go through a different exit where you were able to just leave it right exactly in the 1 amma that's not part of that 4 ammas. Whereas if it's 4 ammas and the second you leave your house to the same entrance, then you be chayiv. So that's what we're saying. What the price is. It does not seem to be like this logically. It doesn't really seem to be an answer because then again, why did it have to be 5 ammas? Then it could be 90 ammas. Again, we could do the same exact thing. We could then go ahead and say that the chutzner is tremendous and he put it all the way over there, and the way you're chayiv is you walk 4 ammas. Why do you have to start saying that it's within four ammas of an entrance? So is the 4 ammas connected to the entrance? Is that ma'akiv? Are you trying to say that's necessary that when you bring it out you have to be within 4 ammas? No, because if let's say he walked out the second entrance and he was now within 4 ammas, but then he diverted, so he was putter, then he would become chayiv. So in other words, the real case really is within 4 ammas. So this whole wraparound is not really helping our basis cause at all. Tama and the Tanya, we learned in the Mishnah over there. And this Mishnah that we learn over there at Krisis is basically telling us that what happens if a person ate chaylev, and he can be over for 4 different transgressions. On one, he ate it on Shabbos, he ate it on Yom Kippur, he did it while carrying, and it was nicer, it was left over. So that's 4 different transgressions. We're not going to leave a carbon overnight. The ones that have to be eaten within that by chatzos or one that have to be eaten 2 nights in a day or whatever it is. So nicer is when it's left over too long. So you have nicer, you have Yom Kippur, you have walking on Shabbos, and then you also have the eating the chaylev, and you not eat fats. So that's 4. So Reb Meir says over there, if it was Shabbos and he transferred it from one rishus to other rishus, so Amalai, they said Reb Meir, Einoi Hashem, it's not the same. Shabbos is a different category. So the Gemara explained how Shabbos is a different category than the other ones, the Chaylev, Yom Kippur, and nicer, because there you're chayiv while you're walking. So this guy's walking and eating, so therefore he's chayiv. But on Shabbos you're only chayiv because of maniach. If the person stops while eating, then he's chayiv. Obviously he puts it down, but at the very least he has to stop. If he doesn't stop, he keeps walking. He's not chayiv in Shabbos. The person could take out and walk all day long. He's not going to be chayiv until he stops. So therefore, we see over there that walking is not going to be considered the chayiv b'chatos, and only if he stops. So money amarlai. So who is that? The one who says that? Rabbi Yossi. 1 second. If Rabbi Yossi is the one who says that you have to stop, how can Rabbi Yossi over here say that as long as he walked within 4 ammas, that's going to be enough to be chayiv? Is walking enough to be chayiv, or is walking not enough to be chayiv? So first of all, again, we could answer this, but we could answer very partial over here. We could say it's very different. One is talking about a full measure. So when you have a full measure and you're walking and you haven't completed anything, you don't know anything yet, so then you're right. Walking is not going to be considered a malach on Shabbos until he stops, because he has to stop. However, according to Rabbi Yossi, he already had the stopping on the first half measure. He took half already out. Or just, and he walked and he stopped. So he already had a stopping. Then he took the second half and he took it out. So what Rabbi Yossi is saying is a chiddush is that you don't have to stop by the second half of the measure of the sin of b'chayv chatas. You just have to walk by the first one. So that's maybe a chiddush that Meir is saying, because not really a tzira, but right now the Gemara is saying that it could be a tzira. So mehalpa shitase de Rav Yossi. So the opinion of Yossi has been reversed, it looks like, because Talmud law of the mahalach maniach. There he's saying that he has to walk, he has to put it down. The kachavin mahalach maniach, and here he wants to walk to put it down. No, so therefore, what is it? Do you have to put it down? Do you not have to put it down? Steer to Rav Yossi. Rav Yudin says, Tiftar haya mutal al sukkah. So interpret this, the Mishnah increases with the one action that turns into 4 averos. So a person was located basically on the threshold, okay? He's basically 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the Rishuyos. Mix up b'fnei, mix u'fiv l'chutz. And basically he's half in and his mouth is outside. Pashad yadai v'notel achli. He takes his hand out and he puts it into his mouth when he's outside. So he transferred it from inside. He leaned outside. He put it into his mouth. He did not walk. So therefore, now he ate. Now he transferred and now it's Yom Kippur, and now it's Late Shabbat. The problem is he didn't. What is that? What is putting it into your mouth? Is that considered now putting it down? I don't think is that what the chiddush is, that you take something from one hand to the other hand is putting it down. That's not putting it down. A guy walking all day long switching hands, is that going to be considered what's the malacha? Now we're saying that also switching hands, or if a guy takes out something and just a rabbin and he's eating it all day long while he's walking, that's considered putting it down. How is that considered putting it down? Just transferring it from one body part to the other body part. So we're going to see on Daf Beis about transferring it on different parts of his body and whether that's going to be considered chayiv. Right now, according to you, it seems like the havamina is that taking it and putting it into his mouth, even if he didn't move anywhere, they're transferring it outside and putting it into his mouth. The hand was inside, and then he transferred it outside and put it in his mouth. It was outside. That should be enough. So Pasha Yonah went onto the lachos, he stretched out his hands, and he took hold of the food and ate it. So Harei Lila Hilech. Behold, he did not walk. And therefore he was still able to be chayiv on Shabbos. Why doesn't he just say that that you have to? So over there. So in that case, it only saying he did not walk, not that he does not have to walk. In other words, it seems like the question on Rabbi Yossi was that if you walk, it's not going to be considered, but if you have to put it down. And this answer is he didn't walk. But again, it doesn't prove anything because it just still seems like as long as you walk, you're still going to be chayiv according to Rabbi Yossi. And now the question still remains. Rabbi Yossi is saying that that the malacha is a different shame. Malacha on Shabbos is putting it down. And the question was, whereas the other ones are done while walking. So is walking done or not walking done? Did you really answer according to Rabbi Yossi? I'm not sure you really helped or you did. I mean, I know you tried to say a pshara of how the brisa can be learned, but the bottom line is we still don't know from Rabbi Yossi. The bottom line is walking enough, putting it down enough. Unless the whole kasha on that Mishnah on Krisis is saying, I would think the havamina was that walking alone is not going to be enough. You have to put it down. So according to this situation, so we haven't put it down. But the bottom line is we still didn't answer the question. Is walking or not walking putting it down? Why did you have to mun onto the fact that he was in one place and put it down? Why can't you say that he was walking according to Rabbi Yossi saying, and then he's chayiv. So he's not chayiv until he puts it down. So then why do we say that he was outside and then he stopped? I don't know. It doesn't really answer the question. I'm not really sure. But if you didn't try to answer the brisa in a way that does answer Rabbi Yossi over there, we're just talking about where he wasn't walking, so if there's no kasha. Because if he wasn't walking, you can't bring a kasha to the brisa. The facts are, if the fact is that he wasn't walking in that situation, how could you bring a question about walking? So you can't. Okay, so that question doesn't. But it's still, on the overall scheme, doesn't really answer Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rabbi Yanai. So now we're up to Gimel Beis. Amar Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai says, Bella Chatzi Zayeh. So he swallowed a half of olive, which is Chalev, Bekikai, and then he regurgitated it. The Chazar Balaya, they swallowed it again. Chayiv is Chayev, Hichnes Chatzi Garis. If he takes out or brings in a half of a dried fig, the Chazar Haitzi goes outside, and then he brought it out. Potter, he's still a Potter. Mabi and I was Levain, the Chayev in between the earlier cases. So there's two ways of interpreting this. What's in between this case and the earlier case? What's in between the case of chaylev and the case of carrying? Also, what's the case of this earlier case of carrying half and half, where he's going to be chayev, and the other one where Rabbi says you have to use it for amis? That's also kasha. There's two kashas. So there's a kasha of what's in between this case of chaylev and this case of Shabbos. We could also say what's in between this case of Shabbos that he'll be potter when he's walking, and Rabbi says with Dalal Amis. Maybe he was Dalal Amis, wasn't Dalal Amis. What's in between those two cases? So here it doesn't say anything about Dalal Amis, but the bottom line is obviously there has to be part of the consideration if you want to talk about walking. So, because it's possible if he walked, and we try to say that he leaves it within 4 amis of the entrance. This Bryce doesn't seem like, even if he left within 4 amis of the entrance, he takes it outside and brings it outside. He's still not going to be chayev. So we have a double kasha. So again, a double kasha, one between Chaylev and one between Shabbos, and one between this Shabbos, where it says you can bring it in and bring it out half and half, and it's not going to combine. And there, which is going to combine, because Rashi says he left within 4 amis of the entrance, or because he didn't walk within 4 amis of the other one. Anyway, Talmud. So we learned over there regarding Chaylev. So then he got kazayis. So his pal received benefit from the olive. But over here, he's not occupied with an entire fig. He's only occupied with a half a fig. And since he's borrowed a half a fig all day long, half fig is only half fig, not the whole fig. See, if he eats a half fig and then he regurgitates and eats another half fig, so even though it's the same taka half fig, but the bottom line is going into his mouth is still a full fig. It's no different than two different bites of fig. However, he because he got the benefit of both of them. However, here carrying half fig all day long, in and out and out and out, still the same half fig. Rashi says, sometimes one can be occupied with an entire fig until he putter. Hey, Avida, how is this case going to work? So we transferred a half a fig and he placed it into the Yerushalmi, and then he returned and transferred another half fig. And he did not have the opportunity to place it until the first one was burnt or destroyed. And now behold, he occupied himself with an entire fig, but who butter is butter, but he never really put it down. So half fig, not putting down, half fig, not putting down. So therefore, it was two half figs, which makes a whole, but he still did not become chaya because he never actually placed a whole fig outside. This ruling that of Rav Yosef represents even a greater chiddush than that was represented in Rav Yanai before. Because the teacher's an exemption, that even if one who transfers a full measure of food in half parts, he's still going to be putter. So why did Rabbi Yanai not teach a greater one? Why did Rabbi Yanai teach the lesser one? Why did he teach the one about chaylev? The half of chaylev compared to chaylev. So Gemara says, begin midimotei l'chalavim. So he draws a comparison to chaylev, who avad came. And the person before the deed in this manner. Since he was trying to compare it to the case of Chalev, so therefore he talked about half and he talked about a half. He didn't talk about the situation where really you had one. We were able to have half and half to combine. It was really one, but he talked about half and he talked about half because he was talking about trying to compare it to Chalev. So Rabbi Yechanan says, a person takes from one Yachid to a public domain, derech mekarmelis. Let's say it goes derech karmelis. So he basically has to leave his house. It then goes into a smaller neighborhood, and then he enters Borough Park, and then he enters Flatbush. All of a sudden, then it's going to be a Carmel's, or he enters like Yerushalim. He's on the outskirts, so he leaves his house. He walks through like a field or something. It's a Carmel's, and boom! Now he's all of a sudden in Yerushalayim proper. He's in Beit V'Gam. So chayev. So then he's chayev. So minamaytzi la'achrav. So we derive it from a person who's trying to translate something from his back. Okay, let's explain. Minadar, from this Mishnah below. So we learn like this. If one intended to transfer from a Sayachid to Sarabim, and he was carrying in front of him, and then a mid-transfer, it went behind him. In other words, he's carrying this, and all of a sudden it fell into his back. So Pater is exempt. However, if he was trying to transfer when it was behind him, and then it moved to his front, chayev, he is chayev. So let's see how that's going to help us. So the efshar, it's possible is it then possible that when the person leaves his house to go to public, there will not be a place over there between his body and the wall Carmelis area? Of course, it's not possible there won't be any space over there, and therefore. The Mishnah still rules that one is still chayiv for doing this transfer in Yerushalayim. So therefore, one who transfers an item from Yerushalayim to Yerushalayim via Carmelis is still liable, because just like from the back to the front, so that's going to be considered like. And he did it in the Yerushalayim, so that's going to be considered sort of like his shoulders are a Carmelis. So therefore, a person who did any Carmelis is still going to be a chayiv. Amar Beis says. Tiftar Panav Hafuchais L'Kaisel. Let us interpret the Mishnah in which the person's face was turned toward a wall, right? The boundary wall. And his burden was behind him. And thus his burden preceded him outside. So therefore, if his burden was behind him, and he was facing the wall, so he basically went backwards, and now that proceeded outside. So how is that going to be like a Kabbalist case? So we reject this. Rab Chia Baraba Abai Kumei Rav Mina. Rab Chia Baraba asked before Amana. Vizulai Derech Haitzahi, but this is not the usual way of transferring. People don't transfer on the back and start walking sideways or backwards. They usually go forward, and that's the case that we're talking about. We're talking about that situation. So if we're some of the Bryce the mission we're talking about when he transferred the back and it went to the front, it's talking about where he's actually walking forward in Yerushalim. So Amar Leis. So Ramana said to him, "Shekain katafayu umanaya ivdan kain." So for a fact, professional porters and sometimes others do this. They actually walk in such an abnormal way. And since the normal manner of transferring objects, one is does it this way, so one therefore makes it liable. Therefore, the Mishnah can indeed be interpreted referring to one who is walking backwards. So you have no raya to a carmelist because now the transfer is what is done by professionals, and therefore just transferring one to the other is enough. So therefore, where do you have the carmelist? So the Gemara then is going to reject this by Mishnah as Rabbi Yechanan source, and they can say another source teaching us that a carmelist is going to be chayev. So Vaida Amarda. So where's the Mishnah that states this? That they're going through a carmelist is going to make you chayev. Damar Alacha Mishmei B'Shem Yechanan. Rav Acha Meisha said the name of Yechanan. Hamoitzi Eichelam V'Nasnu Al His Kupa. If one takes, let's say, food out and places them into the threshold between his house and the Yerushalmi. So he basically has a house. Then there's a threshold which is right outside his house, and then there's Yerushalmi. So he puts it over there. The im is kufa, but consider this kufa lav carmelisi. Isn't that a carmelist, right? And there is chayev. And therefore, so since a person, the Mishnah says that if a person will take it out, he'll go through his threshold and put it into Yerushalmi. And the carmelist clearly is going to be, the threshold is going to be a carmelist. And therefore there's chayev. Therefore we know that a person goes from Yachid to Yerushalmi, so then he is chayev. So let's just finish this last line of Dalam and Aleph. Uve Ishla Rabbi Yosi Dala Amri Min Garme. Rabbi Yosi was distressed that he had not said this on his own. He really wanted to say proof to the Mishnah over there, but he was distressed that he didn't bring up the right Mishnah. I'm glad he had those feelings. It's interesting. What do we learn from this? The fact that the Gemara says he was distressed. The bottom line is you just got to learn better, and then you get the right one. But the point is, if someone else teaches it to you, it's not a bad thing. The lesson here is, he should not be distressed. If you have a question and someone else answers it, and you're like, oh, I should have thought of it on my own, it's fine. That's why you have a chaver there to answer for you. We're all in it together. Have a great Shabbos.